The daughter you reject will return as the owner of what you stole. A legacy of truth, a judgment of spirit. The rejected daughter returns.
For the first time in his life, Chief Obinna Okorie could not command the room. He stood in the grand hall of his own mansion, surrounded by relatives, lawyers, staff hiding behind pillars, and elders who had suddenly become too interested to leave. But no matter how tightly he clenched his fists, no matter how much authority sat on his shoulders, everyone's attention had moved away from him. It had moved to Justina's womb. The unborn child had spoken. Not inside Justina's mind. Not in a dream. Not in one of those private spiritual experiences that people could later deny with confidence. Everyone heard it. Let the trial begin. After that, even Uncle Sylvester, who loved money more than his health, even though his doctor had advised him to take care of his health more, crossed himself and whispered, "I am not against baby girls, oh, let the record show." Auntie Bisi slapped his arm. "Will you keep quiet?" "I am just protecting my future," he whispered back. "In this family, common silence can implicate somebody." Anne leaned close to Justina. "Your daughter has already started court proceedings from the womb. My dear, when she is born, don't argue with her for homework." Justina wanted to laugh, but her lips trembled instead, because fear and wonder were fighting inside her. Her unborn child was powerful. That should have comforted her, but it also frightened her. What kind of baby spoke in front of a whole family gathering? What kind of spirit returned through a pregnancy? What kind of destiny was sitting inside her body? Mama Adaugo seemed to feel her fear. The old woman placed a dry, warm hand over Justina's fingers. "Do not fear the child," she said softly. "Fear the people who made a blessing come back as judgment." Chief Obinna heard her. His face darkened. This madness ends now. The glowing words on the old trust document still shone from the lawyer's table. "The daughter you reject will return as the owner of what you stole." Barrister Kalu, the family's senior lawyer, adjusted his glasses with shaking fingers. He was a thin man with a serious forehead and the kind of voice that usually made legal threats sound polite. But now, even his English had lost confidence. "Chief," he said carefully, "this clause, I have seen this document before, but I must confess, these words were not visible like this." Madame Florence, Chief Obinna's elder sister, leaned forward. "Visible like this? Barrister, are you saying the paper was hiding information?" Barrister Kalu swallowed. "I am saying the ink appears to have reacted." Anne whispered. "Reacted." Lawyer people can use grammar to describe fire burning their trouser. Justina nudged her again, but even Mama Adaugo's mouth twitched. Chief Obinna slammed his palm on the table. The glowing words dimmed for 1 second, then brightened again. He removed his hand quickly. "Enough!" he shouted. "There is no trial. There is no court. There is no princess. There is only manipulation, pregnancy hysteria and old women using superstition to frighten my family. The chandelier above him flickered. Princess Neka's voice did not speak again, but the silence that followed his words felt like a warning. Lady Augusta stood beside her husband, but her confidence had cracks in it now. Her eyes kept returning to Justina's belly, then to the weeping portrait of late Ezekiel Okori. Still, pride is a stubborn cloth. Even when it tears, some people continue wearing it.
She lifted her chin. Obina is right. This family cannot be controlled by fear. Justina is pregnant, yes, but pregnancy does not make her queen over us. Anne raised one finger. With respect, nobody called her queen. Your unborn grandchild called herself princess. Let us follow the minutes of the meeting. Who invited this loud woman? Lady Augusta snapped. Anne placed her hand on her chest. The pregnant woman. And common sense. Common sense does not wear bathroom slippers to a family meeting. Anne looked down at her slippers, then smiled. Mommy, my slippers entered where your wisdom refused to enter. A few cousins coughed to hide laughter. Lady Augusta's eyes widened. Justina quickly whispered, Anne, please. Anne leaned back. I am calm. My spirit is only stretching. But Lady Augusta had already turned back to Justina. You see, this is the kind of disrespect you have brought into my house. Outsiders insulting elders. Servants talking back. Spirits opening documents. Since you entered this family, peace has left. Justina stood slowly. The room quieted.
Her hand remained on her belly. Mommy, she said, her voice steady but soft. Peace did not leave because I entered. Peace left because truth entered. Lady Augusta flinched.
Justina looked around the hall. I did not ask for this. I did not ask to hear my baby speak. I did not ask for statues to open their eyes or portraits to cry. I only wanted to be a wife. I only wanted to be a mother. But last night, I heard you people discussing my child like she was a disease. Emeka looked down. Justina's eyes found him. My husband sat there. He had them. And he said we would talk tomorrow. Her voice almost broke, but she held it. Do you know what that means to a woman? To hear the man who promised to protect you postpone your protection. The room became painfully still. Even Chief Obina did not interrupt. Emeka's eyes filled with shame. Justina, he whispered. She shook her head.
No, let me speak. Since everyone is here, let everyone hear. I am not carrying a curse. I am carrying a child, a daughter, a human being. And whether she is Princess Neka, goddess of wealth, or simply my baby girl, nobody in this family has the right to ask me to remove her because of money.
A strange warmth moved through the hall. The glowing words on the document pulsed once. Mama Adaogo nodded with quiet pride. But Chief Obina's patience snapped. He pointed toward the door. Then leave. The word landed heavily. Emeka looked up sharply. Papa! Chief Obina did not look at him. She wants to speak as if she stands alone. Let her stand alone. Lady Augusta's face changed, but she said nothing. Chief Obina continued, colder now. Justina, since you have chosen pride over this family, you will leave this house today. Anne stood immediately. Good. We have been trying to leave since morning. Please open your spiritual gate. Chief Obina ignored her.
But hear me clearly, he said to Justina. If you walk out carrying that pregnancy, you walk out with nothing. No car, no allowance, no protection, no Okarie name, no access to Emeka, no support from this family. Justina felt the words strike her one by one. No car, no money, no protection, no support. She had left her job after marriage because Emeka and Lady Augusta said a woman in their family should not stress herself when she was pregnant. Her small savings had gone into hospital bills, gifts, and family expectations. Her own parents were comfortable but not wealthy. And pride would not pay rent, buy baby clothes, or handle hospital delivery. Fear moved inside her. Chief Obina saw it. A cool satisfaction touched his mouth. Or, he said, you can act wisely. The room tensed. Emeka stood. Papa, don't! Chief Obina turned on him. Sit down! For once, Emeka did not sit immediately. But he also did not stop his father. Chief Obina faced Justina again. There are 2 papers prepared. One is a medical consent document. You terminate the pregnancy quietly. We send you abroad for rest. After some months, you and Emeka try again. If God gives you a son, this matter ends. Justina's stomach tightened and whispered, Thunder will not miss GPS today. Chief Obina continued. The second paper is divorce. You sign it, you leave. Emeka is free to remarry and this family moves forward. The hall erupted. Madam Florence shouted, Obina, have you lost your mind? Uncle Sylvester said, but let us not rush. Which option protects the Abuja estate? His wife hit him so hard he coughed. The pastor stood, sweating. Chief, with due respect, termination of pregnancy for inheritance reasons is morally... Chief Obina cut him off. Pastor, you have received enough donations from this family to know when to pray quietly. The pastor sat down slowly and clapped once. Wonderful! Even pastor has entered silent mode. Lady Augusta's lips pressed together, but her eyes were wet now. Maybe fear, maybe guilt, maybe the memory of something she had helped bury. Justina looked at the papers Barrister Kalu reluctantly placed on the table. Her vision blurred. Princess Eneka
had been quiet for too long. Justina pressed her hand against her belly. "Baby," she whispered inside herself. "Say something." Nothing. Her heart began to race. "Eneka." Silence. For the first time since the voice came, Justina felt completely alone. Chief Obina stepped closer. "Choose." Emeka moved toward Justina. "This is too much. Papa, please give us time." Chief Obina's eyes flashed. "Time is what brought us here. The longer that pregnancy stays, the stronger this thing becomes." This thing. Justina looked up. "My child," she said, voice low. "What?" "You said this thing. She is my child." Chief Obina's jaw hardened. She is the threat to everything this family has built. Justina laughed once, bitter and broken. Then maybe what this family built deserves to fall. Gasps filled the hall. Chief Obina's face turned red. "You ungrateful girl!" Emeka finally stepped between them. "Papa, enough!" Everyone froze. Justina looked at him. For one moment, hope rose inside her. Small. Dangerous.
Emeka's chest rose and fell. He faced his father, trembling but standing. "She is my wife," he said, "and that is my child." Lady Augusta whispered, "Emeka." Chief Obina stared at his son as if he no longer recognized him. "What did you say?" Emeka swallowed. Justina could see the battle inside him. Love against fear. Manhood against comfort. A lifetime of obedience against one moment of truth. He looked back at Justina, then at her belly, then at the papers. His voice came again, stronger. "I said she is my wife. That is my child. We cannot ask her to abort because of inheritance." Justina's eyes filled. Anne whispered, "Okay, small redemption loading." But Chief Obina laughed. It was not loud. That made it worse. "You think this is film?" he asked. "You think one emotional speech makes you a man? Emeka, everything you call yours belongs to me." Emeka's face tightened. Chief Obina moved closer until he stood inches from his son. "The car you drive, the office you sit in, the shares you boast of, the house you sleep in, your accounts, your contracts, your friends, your lifestyle. Remove my name from your life, and what remains?" Emeka's confidence flickered. Justina saw it. Chief Obina pressed harder. "If you choose her, you live with her. Today. No company position, no family account, no inheritance, no trust, no access to Okorie assets. You will become ordinary overnight." Lady Augusta covered her mouth. The hall waited. Justina waited. Even the portrait seemed
seemed to wait. Emeka turned slowly toward Justina. His eyes were full of pain, but also fear. Deep fear. The kind of fear that had eaten his courage since childhood. Justina knew the answer before he spoke. That was the cruelty of it. Sometimes a woman's heart hears betrayal before her ears do. Emeka whispered, "Justina, let us not make decisions in anger." Anne's mouth opened. Ah! Justina nodded slowly. There it was. The fall. The man had climbed one step toward courage and looked down. The height frightened him. He stepped back. Justina did not cry. Something colder than tears entered her. She looked at him and said, "You had one chance to become the man you promised me you were." Emeka's lips trembled. "I am trying to save us." "No," she said. "You are trying to save yourself and still keep us available." The words caught him. Good. Let them cut.
Chief Obinna smiled faintly. "Wise boy," he murmured. That faint smile did what his threats could not do. It broke the last chain in Justina's heart. She walked to the table. Barrister Kalu shifted uncomfortably. "Madam, please, you don't have to." Justina picked up the divorce papers. Emeka moved. "Justina, wait." She raised one hand. He stopped. She turned to Chief Obinna. "If I sign this, I leave with my child." Chief Obinna's smile widened. "Yes. No disturbance. No claim over her. No Okorie control." He hesitated. The lawyers looked at one another. Mama Adaugo leaned forward, eyes sharp.
Chief Obinna said, "You will have no claim on us. We will have no claim on you." Justina faced Barrister Kalu. "Put it in writing." The lawyer blinked. "Madam?" "Put it in writing that the Okorie family rejects all legal and family claim over my unborn daughter." Chief Obinna frowned. "That is unnecessary." Justina smiled without warmth. "Then I am not signing." The hall stirred. Anne's eyes shone. "My friend, I don't know where this courage downloaded from, but continue." Chief Obinna looked annoyed. "Barrister, write it." Barrister Kalu hesitated. "Chief, legally, such wording may have consequences." "I said write it." The lawyer took a blank sheet and began drafting. Mama Adaugo watched silently. The native elder rubbed his chin. Madame Florence whispered, "Obinna, be careful. Words spoken before spirits are not ordinary." Chief Obinna snapped, "I am tired of spirits." The chandelier flickered. He looked up quickly, then looked away. When the document was ready, Barrister Kalu read it aloud. His voice shook as he confirmed that Justina Okorie, formerly Justina Nwosu, would leave the marriage and that the Okorie family, by their own decision, would make no claim over the female child she carried. When he finished, the hall was too quiet. Justina took the pen. Emeka whispered, "Please, don't do this." She looked at him one final time. "You did it already." Then she signed. The moment the pen left the paper, a wind passed through the hall. Not from the windows, not from the air conditioner, from nowhere. The old trust document on the table burst open again, pages flipping rapidly until they stopped on a sealed section no one had seen before. Barrister Kalu leaned forward, trembling. Words appeared slowly across the page, dark as fresh ink. He read them in a whisper. In the event that the female heir returns and is rejected by the Okorie household, all wealth tied to the blessing of Princess Nneka shall transfer by covenant and trust to the rejected womb and the child she carries. Nobody breathed. Uncle Sylvester fainted. Auntie Bisi screamed his name, then checked his pocket for his phone first. Anne pointed at her. "Auntie, priorities." Chief Obinna snatched the document. His eyes ran over the words. His hands began to shake. "No," he whispered. Lady Augusta stood slowly. "Obinna, what does it mean?" Mama Adaugo answered. "It means you have done what your father did. But this time, the woman did not leave empty-handed." The floor trembled. From somewhere beneath the mansion came a deep cracking sound. Outside, car alarms began to scream. Chief Obinna rushed to the window. Everyone followed. Across the compound, the marble fountain in the center of the driveway had split in two. Water burst upward, shining under the evening light. But the water was not clear. It glittered like liquid gold. Justina stood motionless, still holding the pen. Inside her womb, Princess Nneka finally spoke. Her voice was soft, pleased.
"Mommy, thank you for choosing me."
Justina's tears came then. Not weak tears, not defeated tears. The tears of a woman who had lost a marriage, but found herself. Anne wrapped one arm around her. "We are leaving now." This time, the main gate opened by itself. Slowly, smoothly, as if an unseen hand had decided the trial was over. Chief Obinna turned from the window, panic naked on his face. "Justina, wait!" She looked at him. Only hours ago, those words would have meant something. Now they sounded like a poor man bargaining after the market had closed. Lady Augusta stepped forward, voice trembling. "My daughter, let us not be hasty." Justina almost laughed. "My daughter." The title had returned now that wealth had changed direction. She picked up her small bag. Emeka stood in front of her, broken. Justina, please, I made a mistake. She looked at him for a long moment. Then she said, No, Emeka. You made a choice. He stepped aside. Anne held Justina's arm as they walked through the grand hall. Mama Adaogo followed them to the door. At the entrance, the old woman pressed the cowrie keys into Justina's palm. Justina frowned. What is this?
The key to what they buried, Mama Adaogo said. When the child tells you where to go, use it. Justina looked at the keys, fear and destiny resting cold in her hand. Behind her, Chief Obina shouted orders at lawyers who no longer looked sure they worked for him. Lady Augusta began praying again, but now the prayer sounded less like faith and more like negotiation. Emeka stood silent. Too late. Justina stepped out of the mansion into the evening air. For the first time all day, the breeze touched her face gently. Anne looked at her. Where are we going? Justina opened her mouth to say, Your house. But Princess Nneka whispered from the womb.
Not yet, Mummy. First, we go to the place where my first mother was forgotten.
Justina stopped beside the open gate. Her fingers tightened around the cowrie keys. Where is that? She whispered. The baby answered.
Under the old market. Beneath the shop that never sells anything. That is where their wealth began.
Justina looked back at the mansion one last time. The fountain still poured golden water into the cracked driveway. And from the upstairs window, the statue of Princess Nneka watched her leave with open eyes.
Anne drove like a woman who had insulted death and was now trying to reach home before death remembered her address.
Anne, slow down,
Justina said, gripping the seatbelt with one hand and her belly with the other. Anne glanced at her. Slow down? My friend, after what I saw in that mansion, if this car could fly, we would be discussing from the clouds by now. You are speeding. I am not speeding. I am escaping spiritually. Justina leaned back against the passenger seat and closed her eyes. The Okorie mansion disappeared behind them, but its shadow still sat on her chest. The weeping portrait, the open-eyed statue, the golden water bursting from the fountain, the divorce papers, Emeka's face when she walked past him. That face hurt more than she wanted to admit. Not because she still wanted to run back. No. Something inside her had closed that door. But love does not die cleanly. Sometimes it bleeds quietly, while pride helps you walk. Anne noticed the tears sliding down her cheek. Her voice softened. My dear, cry if you want. Don't hold it. Rich people wickedness is still wickedness, even if their tiles are imported.
Justina laughed weakly through her tears. I don't even know what I am feeling. You are feeling everything at once. Betrayal, fear, hunger, confusion, maybe small anger, maybe big anger. And maybe you are also wondering whether your baby is a baby, a princess, a prophetess, or your new financial advisor. Justina turned to look at her. Anne shrugged. I'm just saying what we are all thinking. For the first time since leaving the mansion, Princess Eneka kicked. Then her small voice whispered,
She talks too much, but she is useful.
Justina pressed her lips together. Anne narrowed her eyes. What? Why are you looking like that? Justina tried to act normal. Nothing. Did she say something? Justina froze. Anne's eyes widened. Ha! She said something! I know that face. What did she say? Nothing serious. Justina. She said you talk too much, but you are useful. Anne gasped so dramatically, the car swerved slightly. Anne! Sorry. Anne corrected the steering. Your unborn child insulted me with accuracy. Justina could not help it. She laughed. A real laugh this time. It came out shaky, broken, and wet with tears, but it was still laughter. Justina laughed weakly through her tears.
I don't even know what I am feeling.
You are feeling everything at once. Betrayal, fear, hunger, confusion, maybe small anger, maybe big anger. Maybe you are also wondering whether your baby is a baby, a princess, a prophetess, or your new financial advisor.
Anne smiled. Good. Laugh small. If you don't laugh in this life, people will use your sorrow to season their soup. The baby whispered.
I really like her.
Justina smiled despite herself. The city lights of Lagos blinked past the window. Street vendors were still selling roasted corn by the roadside. A Danfo bus conductor shouted at nobody in particular. Somewhere near a junction, a woman argued with a fruit seller over change, as if the fate of the nation depended on 200 naira. Life was still moving. That surprised Justina. Her marriage had collapsed. Her unborn baby had spoken in front of a room full of people. A legal covenant had shifted wealth toward her womb. Yet outside, people were still buying suya, dragging prices, honking in traffic, and complaining about fuel. The world did not pause because her heart broke. Anne drove into a quieter part of town and entered a modest estate in Surulere. Her apartment was on the second floor of a yellow building with a stubborn generator that coughed twice before starting. Compared to the Okorie mansion, it was small. The staircase smelled faintly of fried plantain, detergent, and neighborly gossip. But when Justina stepped inside, she felt something she had not felt in days. Peace. Anne's living room was cozy and loud at the same time. Bright cushions, framed motivational quotes, a standing fan that turned with attitude, and a small shelf packed with skincare products, business books, and emergency snacks. Anne dropped Justina's bag near the couch. Welcome to my palace. No golden fountain, but at least nobody will ask you to abort destiny here. Justina sat carefully. Her feet were aching. Anne rushed to the kitchen. Sit, don't move. I will bring food. Pregnant women cannot survive on betrayal alone. I am not hungry. Anne peeped out. That is what sorrow says before jollof rice arrives. Justina looked down at her belly.
For a while, she said nothing. Then she whispered, "Are you still there?" The baby answered softly.
I am here, Mommy.
Justina's eyes filled again. Why did you keep quiet when Chief Obina was forcing me to choose?
Because you had to choose me with your own heart.
Justina swallowed. I was scared.
I know.
I still am.
I know.
Justina looked around Anne's apartment, then back at her stomach. What happens now? Am I really divorced? Am I really carrying a goddess? Am I going mad?
No, Mommy.
Justina waited. The baby added,
But your life will no longer be small.
A chill moved through Justina. Anne returned, carrying a plate of jollof rice, fried plantain, and chicken. She placed it on a stool in front of Justina. Eat. Justina shook her head. Anne, I can't. Anne placed both hands on her waist. My friend, you are carrying a baby that can interpret legal documents from the womb. Please, feed her brain. Justina stared at the plate. The aroma rose warmly. Her stomach betrayed her with a small sound. Anne pointed. You see, even your intestine has voted. Justina took the spoon. The first bite almost made her cry again, but this time from relief. It tasted like normal life. Pepper, tomato, smoke, home. Anne sat beside her and lowered her voice. Tell me everything from the beginning.
Everything.
So Justina did.
From the beginning.
She told her about the first scan, Lady Augusta's reaction, Chief Obina's silence, Emeka avoiding her, the midnight meeting, the baby's first words, the statue, the crying portrait, Mama Adaugo, the hidden promise, Nwakego, the divorce papers, the trust clause, the golden fountain. Anne listened without interrupting, which was unusual enough to count as a miracle. When Justina finished, Anne leaned back slowly. My dear, she said, even Nollywood would tell you to reduce the plot. Justina smiled faintly. Anne became serious. But listen, you cannot just sit here and wait for them. That family will not accept defeat. People who worship money don't lose money quietly. The baby whispered.
She is right.
Justina nodded. She says you are right. Anne blinked. I know. Tell Her Highness thank you. Justina whispered toward her belly. She said thank you. The baby replied.
Tell her she should lock her windows tonight.
Justina stiffened. Anne saw her face change. What now? Justina's voice dropped. She said you should lock your windows tonight. Anne stood immediately. I was going to lock them anyway. I am not afraid. I am only cooperating with wisdom. She rushed to the windows and checked each latch twice. Justina watched her, worry tightening in her chest. What is coming? The baby did not answer immediately.
What is coming?
Then she said, not what? Who?
Not what? Who? Who?